I absolutely adore inks, I always have. And as you can see by my hands, I've been having a lot of fun with inks as I've been filming. This whole video has come from a series of live streams, and I just wanted to bring them all together to give you some ideas on using laces for stencils and to add gorgeous detail to backgrounds and just have a whole lot of lovely fun with them. This particular journal that I'm going to work in first is called the Window Pane Journal, and it has translucent vellum type paper as its pages. It makes such a lovely crinkly noise when you turn the pages. It's adorable. And inks behave differently on this type of paper, which just makes it, elevates the fun even more. I'm also placing in those brown sheets that I've popped in there. They're called Trust the Mess journal sheets, and they are for this to protect your surface, especially when you are using messy, very creative, expressive art materials like sprays, ink sprays going through laces. I've already got a stamped image on there, and I've used one of my inks. It's called Legends of the Sea. Can't remember which color, and that ink is a sheening ink, and it dries to a very glossy color on top, but it also has an undercolor that's different that sits underneath it, so you get this really beautiful effect. So it looks green sometimes and purple other times. Okay, that means it's Blackbeard. I can tell which ink it is now. I'm also using those Trust the Mess sheets, which, look, you can see are very well loved and used. I've got acrylic paint all over that top one there. And I've popped my lace down, just a lovely piece of one of the laces from my store, and sprayed through it with ink. I think I was using the colour Qingxi, which looks red when it is wet, and that's its undertone, and then as it dries, the sheen is a really, really bright gold. And then as you turn the page, you get the shimmer of colour, but it's not twinkly, it's sheeny. It's like shot silk. And just moving my sheet around so that I can just get colours to go in certain areas. It's not going to be an exacting science. I'm just shaping the colour, and I've added a little bit of the colour called Anne Bonny, which has a blue base and a pink sheen. So these are all pirate names, pirate terms that are in the Legends of the Sea set. And because of the way these inks work, look at the gorgeous, intricate little lace pattern. It's not as distinct and perfect as a stencil can be, because a stencil is made out of harder material, out of mylar usually, and you can hold them down, and it's a different experience. The lace, you can even curve it, you can shape it, you can leave the wrinkles in, and you can let your inks go through that and see what happens. Sometimes the laces hold on to more ink. Depends on the ink, depends on the weather, depends on the lace. So it's a very creative little tool, sort of like watercolor. It's a collaboration with the lace. You can't really be the boss of the lace. The lace is frilly, the lace is dainty, the lace has a little mind of its own, and it wants to skip in the wildflowers at any given time, or maybe it wants to sit home and read. We don't know. It doesn't know until it's in motion. This is the way I feel about working with lace. But you can tell I love it because look at my hands. I'm using a little bit of water in a brush to bring that ink around the background. Look, and I'm not saying I'm making a masterpiece here. This is very much a work in progress. Also, the paper is not Wonder Woman, and it can't. It's wet, very, very wet on one side now with all of that water and that ink. So it's going to curl a little. As it dries, it'll just pop back out again. So I'm going to put a little clip on there just to keep it from completely ducking under and disappearing off into a whirl. But you can already see that sheen starting to pop out from the ink. When I put it down, it looked very black. It's a very, very dark purple, that Blackbeard. And then that gorgeous sheen comes to the top. Where that was very red before, can you see that little bit of, looks a bit greenish at the moment, but it'll turn, as it keeps drying, it'll, turn into gold. And you can see the pinky purple that's sitting up on that blue. Once you add lots of water to these inks, you're going to dilute that effect. But let's just have a look at those colours again. So these are Legends of the Sea inks. There's 8 sheening colours in the set and 4 other glorious muted colours, which is sort of more part of the Gods and Monsters set. If you're a Jane Davenport ink aficionado, you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can come along to the website, have a mooch around and see all of the different inks. There are many, most of which are on my hands currently. I've moved into a different journal now. I have to let that other one dry. This is the watercolour, the large watercolour JDMM original journal. I adore these journals. They're the ones that I've had since I've started doing my own art supplies. I do all of my testing in these because I know the paper back to front and inside out. And I'm spraying with a combination of tattoo ink, which is a waterproof ink, in a colour called Bordello. And I've got the ink that's left over from spraying in the window pane journal. So I've got that Legends of the Sea ink sitting on my Trust the Mess sheet. Why waste it? And to be quite frank, who knows where it could end up? I've sprayed all over me. I've sprayed water on it. And then I'm just dragging it across my sheet. Why not? To get a start for something else. Some of it will sheen. Some of it may not. Just depends how much water is in there and just how the ink is feeling. These are inks named after pirates, after all. Freewheeling men and women. So who knows? I've got some water in my brush, and the brush I'm using is from the Pirouette set in the Brush Ballet. Oh, love these brushes. They come in a gorgeous wrap, so you can travel with them. Anyway, I'm just spreading that ink out over the page, giving myself a background, bumping the camera, and I use just a little bit of paper towel to dab up some colour. And now I'm placing down one of our other lovely laces. There's lots and lots of different designs, and of course you can use any lace that you've got. I've just, been on the hunt and I have found very gorgeous ones. I'm spraying down different tattoo inks, different inks from my collection. So I've got the Tattoo Kink, which is a shadow pigment, another waterproof ink. More of the Bordello, which is from the Tattoo Inks, waterproof as well. I think some of these pinks that I'm spraying in might even be from the Feeling Inspired Creative Juice set. And I might even have popped a bit of Incredible ink in there at some point as well. Any ink will be lovely. I just put all of my inks in mister bottles, as well as water brushes and markers and all sorts of other things, because I like to use them in all sorts of different ways. And I'm trying to be careful not to let that lace move, but if it does, it's not a disaster or anything like that. It will just change the effect a little bit, but just keep on going. Now I'm going to add some white ink. This is the Storytime fluid acrylic ink. Works really well in my mister bottles. I've been experimenting with it for quite some time just to make sure, and I love the effect. So on the left hand side of the page, when I lift up that lace, there will be white areas that the ink hasn't been able to get to. On the right hand side of the page, remember I already had all of that colour down there. So if I add more of the water soluble or bright coloured inks on that side, it'll just become darker and darker and featureless. So I'm going to use ink with opacity, and that is the Storytime ink in the mister. So it sort of is reversing. I've got the white going around the pattern on the right hand side, and on the left hand side I've got the white is the pattern. You'll see what I mean when I take off my lace. So as I was doing this live stream and remembering I don't usually plan out what I'm going to be doing, this was a little discovery on my way. And how do I get these two sides of the page to talk to each other and become an interesting background? Now, you can leave the lace sitting there for as long as you like before you lift it up, but I haven't got the patience for that. So I'm going to lift the lace up and have a nice little look at what I've got. And I love how that white ink is reactivating the ink that's underneath it, and it's becoming this beautiful sets of blues and purples and sort of like a floral celestial event happening in the sky. I'm going to add some extra colours at the top there, just to make it the full rainbow. Why stop at yellow? May as well continue it all the way around the colour wheel so that the page matches my hands. Very, very inky indeed. I also love to use the laces with my other stencils. These examples are from another video about the new tattoo inks in the bright colours, where I've used the lace and some of the stencils from my collection together and sprayed through them to get lovely effects as well. This next example, I had some colours underneath, I laid my lace over the top and I sprayed over with black tattoo ink, which is a waterproof black ink. It's the one that comes in the skull-shaped bottle. Fabulous ink with the laces. Love it because it sits up, the formula of the ink is such that it sits up on top of other inks to a greater extent and doesn't bleed into them unless they're wet like I have got in this situation on the left hand side of the page. And I'm using layered cakes and my little candy dipper paint minis to add in detail and extra colour, a little bit of musical marker as well to add some neon and pink. And it shows how the lace can make a really gorgeous intricate background that matches the vibe of whatever else you might be working with. This is the same lace as in the last example, just sprayed with I think Bordello pink tattoo ink and the Storytime ink on a gessoed green background. And it gives me the energy of butterflies in a beautiful garden. So as a background, that's where this could take me to, and I could create that kind of scene over it. Here's another very delicate lace that we have sprayed through with different inks, and it just has that lovely shadowy, imperfect but delicate look. Again, a lovely start for background, quick, easy and beautiful. And this one has watercolour and various watercolour inks sprayed through it and various laces just plopped down, sprayed through to give a delicate, uplifted feeling. In another video, I'll probably show you where I take these backgrounds next. And all of the inks, the tools, the sprayers, the pens, the brushes, the paints, and the laces are all available at janedavenport.com, where I've also got other videos that you can enjoy and learn all sorts of different creative techniques.